It's Friday, and welcome everybody to the 6'5 podcast. We are live, we are streaming on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, not sure. And of course, hopefully you're subscribing. So if you're not getting it on one of those live channels, you are getting this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or SoundCloud. But it's another episode, this one number 77. I'm your host today, Daniel Newman, Principal Analyst, Futurum Research, joined by my esteemed co-host in crime, Mr. Patrick Moorhead, Moor Insights Strategy. Patrick, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It is Friday morning, and we all know what that means. Another episode of a 6'5 live television here. It's good to be here. Really good to be here. I was wondering if you were going to introduce me. I'm kind of like, does this guy know I'm on camera here or what? But, it's great.
Yeah, if I was going to handle the production, I would have actually just left you out of the whole intro just so I could have the whole screen to myself. No, come on, man.
I can do that, though.
I'm welcoming the guests in. It's all about the community here. It's all about the people that are listening. We carefully curate 6 topics for roughly 5 minutes apiece, deep analysis, little bit of news, just enough so you know what we know so that you can know what you need to know when it comes to all things technology. We've got a great show today, Pat. We've got a little different show. So I want to prime the pump. 6'5 is usually 6 topics specifically that happened in tech. Well, this week it's going to be 6 topics, 5 topics that happen in tech, and 1 that's going to be the thing in tech coming up in June. Can't tell you what it is just yet. We've actually already spilled the news. Just look on our Twitter accounts. But in truth, we're going to go in deep. We're going to tell you about what's going on with the 6'5. There's something very big, very exciting, and we can't wait to share. So we're going to zoom through the news, 5 topics, and then we're going to get to the end, and we're going to talk about something special. All right, quick disclaimer. This show is for information and entertainment purposes only. And while we will be talking about publicly traded companies, please do not take anything Pat Moorhead or I say as investment advice. Do your own research, make your own decisions. Just listen for the entertainment and informational purposes. And plus, this is a fun show. Zoom, Honeywell, Cisco, NVIDIA, Splunk will be our topics today. And let's get this show started with Zoom Perspective, the annual Analyst Summit, which we spent 2 days with the team over there. So I think I'm kicking this one off, right, Pat?
You are. You're the big talker on this one. So just for our audience, if you wonder why one analyst talks a lot more than the other, is we kind of have a follow lead and we go back and forth. And Daniel, this is your topic. You started off, buddy. Rip it.
Yeah, let's give it a rip. So the Zoom Perspectives Analyst Summit was a multi-day event. And to be fair, we will not be able to do full justice of this event. But the great thing about it was Zoom gave us a tremendous amount of access to product leaders and executives within the company for 2 days to give us some vision and visibility into where things are heading at Zoom. And so this event kind of kicked off with a big executive briefing from the chief revenue officer, gave us some background. Pat, you had a great tweet about it, but just giving us some, if you don't know, trillions of minutes of meetings are going on right now running on the Zoom platform. And speaking of platform, this particular year and this summit, this analyst event was very focused on the platform that is Zoom. And there's a little bit of background there. I think a lot of people realize the pandemic fueled rapid exponential growth. You're talking triple digit numbers of growth in revenue, in earnings, in customer acquisition, in large customers, in enterprise. And by the way, a lot of people didn't know what Zoom was a year and a half ago or so. Grandma knows what Zoom is now. Grandpa, great grandma, everybody knows what Zoom is. So Zoom has become sort of the Kleenex of collaboration, and good for Zoom. But what I was wondering, and what I went into this event really wanting to know is kind of 2 things. One is what is going on with Zoom, and 2, how in the world does this company maintain, sustain, and retain the growth and customers that it has been able to acquire over the last year and a half? So that was kind of what we were able to get into and talk a little bit about. And as I said, platform was the big thing. Platforms are huge in everything, whether it's SaaS and applications, whether it's the Power Platform at Microsoft, whether it's a Salesforce platform. Companies are looking at how do we centralize around maybe a product that you use, and then you build and expand, whether that's adding AI and adding data and adding tools. And so we spent a lot of time learning about where the company is going with its platform to extend and make their solution more extensible. Two quick notes, and then I'll pass the torch back to you with just a tiny bit of oxygen in the room here, Pat. One, the company rolled out a really big announcement around its events platform. It's going to have a multi-wave. So I think the familiarity that the market has with Zoom is going to make it an extremely likely success that its events platform will do well. It will start off with single kind of events. It'll be more like webinars, and then it will go on to a multi-session, single track event. And then eventually it's going to be a multi-track, multi-session event. So you'll be able to run your big CES style events on Zoom. Pretty cool. The other thing is just, I did have a chance to talk at some Q&A with CEO Eric Yuan. I did ping him about how in the world is he going to be able to sustain the growth. Eric, in a very humble yet bullish way, said he believes coming out of the pandemic that companies are going to be streamlining. They are going to be minimizing down to only a couple of collaboration solutions at most, whereas now some are using 6 or 8. He believes Zoom has the strong potential to be among the only 2 or 3 platforms that will stay as enterprise-wide adopted. And as the platform expands, he believes the growth can continue. So I can't say much more because of embargoes and such, but overall, he had a very bullish view, and we had a lot of access to the executives. Good event.
Yeah. So what I'll add is that the majority of the event was NDA, where we were going through roadmap. Well, part of it was NDA, part of it was embargo. But so there's little that we can talk about. And I think what I was left with is that Zoom transforming from a video tool to a platform. And I think we all could have guessed how Zoom would have to grow and the things it would need to do to grow even after this pandemic bump. I was impressed with a few of the metrics that they let loose here. One was that they have over almost 500,000 customers, businesses with 10 or more employees. Sometimes we think of Zoom as a consumer play, but I thought that was interesting, or a very small business play. And the other was that they have 3.5 trillion annualized meeting minutes, which is just mind-boggling when you think about it, which clearly shows to me that the company has scale. I think the challenges moving forward with Zoom are going to be that while currently they're doing super well related to, I would call it PC to PC or phone or tablet a type of communication to room. There are Zoom rooms. And I think the company needs to build out that ecosystem and infrastructure a lot more, because like you said, we went into here and Zoom wasn't that big of a deal before we went into the pandemic. But now they are, and they need to grow, and they need to grow up to be looked at by enterprises as a end-to-end solution.
Yeah, I would say, Pat, overall, it was a positive. Like you said, not a lot of stuff that could be fully disclosed. That's why at best we were paraphrasing some of the inputs and insights that we were able to get. But I think Zoom knows the pressure it's under to transform and to scale, and it can't just be an appliance. It has a lot more with the phones, with the rooms, but it's got a tricky road ahead. But I think it made enough of a impression in the first during this last 18 months that it is going to be here to stay. Pat, let's jump ahead. Let's go to Honeywell.
So you want me? Let me take that one, as if we don't already know I'm taking that one. No. Sorry, you got to talk about the news. I just jumped right in there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no biggie, man. I was just going to say, big announcement. Honeywell and SAP announced a big partnership, calling it Frio. And you wrote a great piece on Forbes about it.
Yeah, and you wrote a good piece on Futurum as well. And it's funny, when I think of Frio, for some reason I think of like a topping, like an ice cream. but it is not ice cream. It is a building management solution. So let me step back. About 10 years ago, when I started my firm, we did a segmentation analysis of the Internet of Things. And we segmented into 4 quadrants. But one of the key things that we talked about that now kind of gets taken for granted is that we need to have the connection between OT, which is the operational technologies out there, which are the HVAC, security systems, elevator systems, all those systems, oil refinery, stuff like that, and IT, which the computers, the data centers, the information. And it was novel then, it's not novel now. But what's cool about this is you have Honeywell, who is dominant in OT and are adding IT with their own EPM platform called Forge. And EPM is essentially a fancy acronym for being able to manage your assets in a positive way, an impactful way. And you have SAP, which is clearly IT, and a company that has many of these large manufacturers, many of these large companies who have been leveraging SAP for decades. We had SAP at AMD, where I was at. My gosh, I think we even had it at Compaq back in the day. But these two companies have come together to put their collective efforts, combined superpowers, to build out a building management solution. And there were, without getting the details, you can read our columns and analysis, but they're enriching each other's data in different types of solutions related to building management. And you can just picture, I mean, if you're a company and use SAP, you know the data that you have. And if you have Honeywell and you have your OT systems, you know what data. And they're even enriching that data with Qualtrics data, which didn't get a lot of play in the announcement because this was Honeywell and SAP. But this, Daniel, is the instantiation, the reality. When we talk about the industrial IoT, this is what it's really about, connecting IT with the OT to make a real business impact.
Yeah, it was a big announcement, Pat. Great coverage here. Like I said, your article really hit it home. We'll put it in the show notes so people can read up on it. We've talked about Honeywell a few times on this show, and specifically about Honeywell's transition to being more and more of a tech company. These are these pivotal moments where the company is showing that it's putting its money where its mouth is. It's the leadership of the companies, both Honeywell and SAP got together, said they want to do something strategic together, settled in on this real estate opportunity. A couple of things I think that really are worth pointing out. One is building a simple to integrate standard solution that can be deployed in a matter of a few weeks, that enable companies to take both that IT, OT data that we always hear about, implement all of it to improve the performance of their building management systems. The second thing is Honeywell Forge is able to be layered upon various building management systems. And this is the way it's set up to run at the edge. So you don't have to be a Honeywell smart building. You have to be a smart building with different sensors and data that can come in. Honeywell can sit on top of that. And then you can take all that data, plug it straight into SAP, run it together. Third is SAP is in a pretty big transition right now from prem to cloud. It's not gone extraordinarily fast. So Honeywell was very strategic here as well to find multiple integrator partners that could take legacy prem-based SAP, which still is a large percentage of the deployments, and enable those customers to quickly plug in and connect to this Frio solution. So SAP and Honeywell can run together, even if it's not in a cloud native manner, knowing that in many cases, SAP is still being run on prem. This was very important because it otherwise would have eliminated a large percentage of the opportunities for various SAP companies that haven't yet made that migration to cloud. That's going to be the big challenge for SAP ahead. For Honeywell, it's already really built its tools in Forge to be cloud native. So that solution should be able to scale upon of the huge real estate opportunity that's out there. Good move by Honeywell. Smart stuff. Pat, you ready to jump into topic 3?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So next week will be earnings on fire once again, but this week was a quiet week. So our earnings coverage, we got a little bit of a break, but we didn't get an entire rest. Cisco delivered its earnings Wednesday. Is it Friday? It was Wednesday, Pat. After the bell, Chuck Robbins came out and gave out some pretty encouraging news. The company saw 7% year-on-year growth. And again, this was after 5 quarters of revenue retraction and some concerns starting to grow about whether or not prem-based IT was going to have a return. So throughout the whole pandemic, cloud native, SaaS, public cloud, very resilient. Big IT OEM style companies, Cisco, HPE, Dell's ISG business, IBM, all struggled to find that growth, all whether single digits up or down. So Cisco, this was a big inflection point for the company to get back to growth. Came in at 12.8 billion, 83 cents a share on earnings. Guidance was in line, but yet the stock still fell hard after it reported. For whatever reason, Pat, I think people wanted to see like 40% growth from Cisco. This, by the way, the bookings that the company has been some of the most robust backlog of business the company has seen in a long time. It's creating cash flow. It's generating earnings. It's seeing strength across all of its segments grew, Pat. So security, infrastructure, and applications grew. We saw 13% growth in security, clearly strengthened by a lot of visible security events that have taken place over the past several months, SolarWinds, Microsoft, the recent ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline. People are paying attention and making investments in security. 6% and 5% respective growth in the enterprise infrastructure and applications business. And Pat, probably the one thing I really want to think that we should point out, and I know you'll talk more to this, is strong software numbers, $14 billion in software. 81% of this is now in what they consider recurring revenue, and they're seeing that grow at about a 7% rate. So overall, as I see it, Cisco had a robust quarter, needs to show some sustained growth with multiple quarters, needs to see more growth here in North America, as a lot of its growth came from APJC, they call it. Everyone does that a little differently, Pat. But I think overall, I called this a bellwether ahead of earnings. I put out my commentary to the media. I said, Cisco is a bellwether for the resiliency of IT. Next week when we get Dell, and we're going to need to look at their ISG numbers because they lead in a lot of those categories as well. But this was an encouraging moment, but sustained growth is what the market is going to be looking for now.
Yeah, it was great to see this, Daniel. You hit a lot of the highlights, and I like double-digit growth. Who doesn't like double-digit growth? And the company just needs to balance the smaller areas that are double-digit growth, obviously, with the larger business, which either is flat or not growing. I mean, you have double-digit Wi-Fi 6, Cat 9K, you have double-digit WebEx and security. So. I love it. The other thing that I'm most impressed with, and this is why Cisco's valuation is so much higher than others that you might consider an infrastructure play, is because the subscriptions that they're bringing out, and 81% of their software sold as a subscription. That's incredible, and I can't wait to hear when they're talking about the entire business as a subscription, when you get into the infrastructure as a service, which is getting so much more popular. It's interesting. The growth in APJC was staggering, and I'm thinking that the infrastructure that requires people to be at work, and the projects that they're working on that require this infrastructure, APJC, the situation is better. And I get, Taiwan is having their momentary troubles, but it's far ahead against Western Europe and the United States. So it makes sense to me. So what I'll be looking for next quarter is they can take this growth to North America and Western Europe, but still, I don't want to take anything away from the company's strongest demand in a decade, measured by product order growth. Good job, Cisco.
Yeah, absolutely. Good calls, Pat. We'll talk more about this. Next week will be a lot of data. By the way, looking forward to seeing Dell and HPQ report because I want to hear, is the PC boom still on? I've got some thoughts about that, but we'll save that for the next show. Pat, NVIDIA had some big news. By the way, NVIDIA had some huge news today on a stock split. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, that just kind of popped this morning. But they had some big news. You wrote a piece about it for the, because what do people talk about on our favorite business channel, CNBC? Right now, we talk about cryptocurrency and we talk about semiconductors.
That's
and
right.
So nothing better than a segment on our podcast where we could talk about cryptocurrency and semiconductors with NVIDIA's new LHR card update. Pat, great piece on that. What's going on?
So big picture, if you are a gamer and you're looking for a gaming card, you are SOL, as my dad would always say. That's because the prices are up to 2, sometimes 3 times more expensive than the retail price. It's insane. And you can't even get the higher end cards. Now, is the challenge that TSMC and Samsung can't crank out enough chips? Not really. The challenge is that the demand for those gaming cards is being chewed up by Ethereum crypto miners. So Bitcoin miners are on ASICs. Companies like Bitmain dominate that with full up ASICs. Used to be GPUs, by the way. Used to be CPUs before that. But from an Ethereum point of view, it's all about GPUs. And there's a couple ways that both AMD and NVIDIA have tried to combat that. I mean, trying to have anti-bot technology at the point of sale. None of that has worked. The free market has actually worked. So what NVIDIA is doing to combat this is twofold. So first of all, back in February, they brought a directed line of cards just for Ethereum mining called CMP. And that is a real business. NVIDIA CFO on the last financial disclosure talked about that business, which was zero a few months ago, getting to $150 million. So, hey, it doesn't touch the size of the graphics cards, which is in the tens of billions, but it still means there is demand for that. The second thing they did back in February, and this was kind of a trial run, is they did the 3060. They reduced the hash rate by 50%. Not big enough, didn't really prove much out there. I can't say whether that was a success or not, but what NVIDIA did is they added the RTX 3080, 37, and 3060 Ti to the reduced hash rate, and they have a moniker that's on the packaging and at the point of sale called LHR, or light hash rate, which means a 50% reduction. So all this means is another opportunity for more gamers to get gaming cards as opposed to crypto miners. The things I'm going to be looking for, Daniel, are is the driver hacked? Nothing is unhackable, right? As we've seen, the strongest government, DHS and military get hacked. There is nothing that's unhackable. It's all about how much time and resources that you want to get into doing it. But you know what? At least NVIDIA is doing something about it. They're doing something. I was so shocked at how much grief they were getting out there, and I just don't understand it. At least they're trying, and I don't know any other way, any other solution. Intel created an entire product line for Ethereum crypto miners, and they have a limited hash rate product line. So anyways, I appreciate what NVIDIA is doing for gamers.
Yeah, Pat, I think you hit on the head. Clearly, the company understands that these are two markets that require demarcation and separation and segmentation. The crypto boom is currently addressing and definitely impacting resource availability to a very loyal and huge segment of NVIDIA's business. And NVIDIA not addressing it would have been a pretty big risk factor. So clever what's going on there. And by the way, great insight. I don't think everybody fully understands. I know I had to do a little research on my own to understand the impact of the hash rates and how NVIDIA could intelligently wind down the cards to be useful for particular applications and not for others. It'll be interesting, by the way, to see if the Ethereum boom on GPUs continues. We saw what happened with Bitcoin and over time how it moved from GPU to ASIC. And it will be pretty interesting to watch to see there. So some big news from NVIDIA, addressing a huge part of its market. By the way, another company that is reporting next week. Expect that. Even speculation, Pat, by the way, with their split, and I know I love this financial stuff. And since we're talking, and we're actually on time today. And since we're doing that, I will mention this, though. There is speculation that NVIDIA could be added to the Dow 30 component. But if they are, they will likely be replacing one of Intel, IBM, or Cisco. This could be very interesting, but after the split, because of its price being at 150, the weighting it would have would make it a very likely addition, especially since its market cap has now surpassed all of the companies I just named. All right, so let's get on to the fifth topic, and this should be a quickie. Splunk, one of the companies that I've enjoyed talking about, and we're starting to get more involved in the show, made another acquisition this week. Now, Splunk, kind of long and short, likes to brand itself as the provider of the data to everything platform. So unlike some of the other companies we've talked about today, Splunk is not necessarily a household name, but essentially what it's done is build this platform that has removed barriers between data and action. Their focal points are IT, DevOps, and security. Made an acquisition this week, smaller-ish acquisition, but if you don't know, Splunk was a prem-based observability platform, prem-based IT ops, SecOps platform that's moved to an observability in the cloud platform to essentially allow an organization to use as kind of a wrapper, I call it, around all the organization's data to be able to more rapidly, everything from application to infrastructure to security. As we mentioned earlier in this pod, Pat, security is a massive issue. Companies are running up against it. Threats are coming from everywhere, and the ability to not only have all the data available to identify, detect intrusion early on and deal with it, but you're seeing more of a need for orchestration and automation. And so this Trustar acquisition that was made by Splunk really is set out to address that. This company, by the way, Trustar, while not a household name, like I said, has been busy in this space, has been busy in this partnership. Most recently, I believe they partnered up with ServiceNow. So Trustar had been working with ServiceNow to build workflow orchestration automation to reduce security threats and intrusion. And it's, like I said, its big thing is all about automation. So it's about you being able to take all the data sources, being able to, in real time, automate the resolution of threats using AI, ML, automation, and basically full visibility to data through the cloud. No details, Pat, on the size of the deal. We don't know if it was $1 million or $1 billion, but we do know that this company has been partnering with some of the world's largest, automation and technology and companies like Splunk, like ServiceNow. So they're in the right space. What's interesting about Splunk is, like I said, is it's not necessarily this known entity just yet. Their CEO, Doug Merritt, I've done a few interviews with him. He'll be involved in something we'll tell you more about in a moment. But what this company has done very well is acquiring smart pieces to the puzzle that has enabled it to move from this prem-based IT ops, SecOps tool to a full cloud tool set. And Pat, by the way, in their recent conf event last year, Doug Merritt showed numbers about their annual recurring revenue growth, and he was able to show that Splunk's growth actually outpaces some of the world's fastest growing SaaS companies. So Splunk is growing faster than Salesforce, faster than ServiceNow in terms of its recurring revenue in cloud business growth. So while it's not known yet by everybody out there, if you are in IT ops or SecOps, you probably know who they are. But Pat, December, they acquired Flowmill. November, they just acquired Rigor. October, Plumber. So you're talking about 3 acquisitions in 3 months. Last year, Streamlio, SignalFX, Omnitron, Krypton Cloud. So every one of these is a piece of the toolbox that enabled Splunk to move to this full observability cloud. Who else is in observability? IBM's in observability. Who else? Cisco's in observability. All the major cloud players are in observability. So while every company is putting more effort, more time, making more investments in acquisitions, Splunk was ahead of the curve. It was early on this, and now it's making some really smart little add-ons to its business like Trustar that are enabling it to differentiate and be a best of breed solution in this particular space. I'm pretty bullish on the company. I know the leadership. I found what they're doing to be on the right track, and you can't argue with their growth.
Listen, Daniel, there's no doubt that their customers and the enterprise know who they are, and they're in at least 90 out of 100 Fortune 100 out there. And if you're anywhere in the vicinity of cybersecurity, IT ops, and observability, you know this company. Splunk's challenge is they need to have more horizontal uses to leverage big data. And this is what this is all about. And, this acquisition adds to their cybersecurity solution suite. And I think growing through small acquisitions to make the usability of big data is a smart thing. And it's a natural thing for them. And, like we've seen, with Hadoop to Spark to, different big data tools, you're always being eaten by that next startup. And observability startups are coming out literally all over the place. I get pitched weekly on them. This latest one is using Snowflake, right? And that's their claim to fame, and they're probably going to go right up against Splunk in the exact same area. So Splunk needs to grow, and it needs to grow fast. So I like their multiple acquisitions.
Yeah, they're on the right track. And Pat, I know we kind of debate whether or not to do this. I realize I may have been a little muddy. So just to be very clear, I want to give you guys one sentence on what this means. This is a layer to their Splunk security platform. In particular, support its automation, detection, response workflows, and basically the ability to take first and third party intelligence sources to leverage both internal and historic intelligence. That's it. That's what just happened. That came straight out of my blog. I read it because it was better thought out than anything that came to my mind when I was explaining it. All right, dude, I need a drum roll here. Is that a drum roll? That was terrible.
Yes.
That was a terrible, as Charles Barkley would say, that was terrible. That was a terrible drum roll. But guess what, Pat? It's news time.
That's right, baby. We are back, the 6.5 Summit 2021. We've been leaking some stuff out on Twitter, but Daniel, man, we're back, baby, and we're doing recordings. We're jumping on airplanes. We're having a good time here. So I'm gonna flash up some stuff here just to get this get this going.
Yeah, you teased it earlier if people were paying attention, but.
No, I know. If I can get this, I can get this right. So Daniel, why don't you kick this off, and we'll just kind of go back and forth.
Absolutely, Pat. So we could not be more excited to announce our second annual 6.5 Summit. For those that did not catch it last year, it was kicked off by Dell CEO and Chairman Michael Dell. We had Lisa Su, President and CEO of AMD, and Doug Merritt, the gentleman that runs Splunk, also helped keynote. But we had a great event last year. This year, the whole idea was to be bigger, better, and badder in the best way possible than our last year event. And we have a lineup, Pat, that I think anybody could get excited about.
Yeah, so as you can see, we have the top companies out there in the industry. This is the who's who. And I will tell you, we had some people who they saw this slide and they're $1 trillion companies. They asked to be part of it. And unfortunately, we had to turn them away. We hate to do that, but we can't have everybody. But I'm just thrilled at the breadth of this. And as Daniel was saying before, we take feedback from our community very seriously. And they said, hey, we asked them, hey, what can we do to make this better? And they told us, first of all, don't jam this all into 2 days. So we went to 5 days. We went to 12 topics. We manicured them, and I'll get to that slide a little later. We have 6 executive keynotes, 40 spotlight sessions, and they also said, hey, Pat, add a live element to this. So we're going to have, after each day, daily executive Q&As out there. From a content perspective, similar to last year, but we have made some nips and tucks. And I challenge you to find something in here that we missed. And by the way, it's enterprise apps, not enterprise SaaS. SaaS is included, but we also have people who will be talking about applications that you create on-prem or in the cloud, and in which, by the way, most applications are like that. So we are pleased to have Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger kick off the summit. Pat started his career 30 years at Intel, and he then joined VMware, where he ultimately became CEO and is in his first 100 days. And Pat's going to talk about his perspective. And, you can think Intel is involved in all the way from the edge to the deep edge, all the way through to the data center and everything in between. So he has a unique perspective on this, and also with the importance of semiconductors, the strategic nature of semiconductors. I'm really excited to what he's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, Pat. And then we have a whole, week of outstanding keynotes. And basically, as you saw, we had our 12 topics and we broke them up into, multi-layers where we found hopefully pretty adjacent or complementary. So, Pat will kick us off. And then our first day is dedicated to cloud and infrastructure, where we have Allison Du, the CMO and EVP of Dell, leads their entire as a service business model that's recently been rolled out at their event called Project Apex. We have the Office of the CTO and VP of Advanced Technology, Chris Wolf from VMware, that will lead our Apps and Collaboration Day, where we have another tremendous number of speakers. We'll talk more about them. On the third day, 5G Edge and IoT, we are super excited to have Darius Adamczyk. He is the CEO and chairman of Honeywell, pretty big company. We talked about them here on the show today. On day 4, super happy, couldn't be more pleased than to have CEO and president of AMD, Lisa Su, return after giving a keynote last year. I mean, what an honor. And actually on day 4 and 5, 2 of our original keynotes, OG of our events, are coming back. And that is Doug Merritt, president and CEO of Splunk. And here's the amazing thing, Pat. We're going to run you through the days quickly. We have speakers of these calibers all the way throughout the event. So spotlights and it's just going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be, I'm excited. So real quick, day 1 is all about cloud and infrastructure. And you can see here, we have most of the leaders in cloud and many of the leaders in infrastructure. We have Azure, we have Intel, we have IBM, we have the president of Honeywell coming in to talk about the quantum cloud, SAP, Pure Storage, and Marvell. And for those who aren't familiar, Marvell has a lot of silicon in the public cloud. And we also have Oracle Cloud with Clay Magurek, which, quite frankly, they have amazed me in what they're doing with their Gen 2 cloud.
Yeah, and then on the second Apps and Collaboration Day, as mentioned, kicked off by VMware talking about app development, but then we've got Salesforce, Oracle coming back to talk about the app side of their business, Microsoft. We have collaboration coming from the CEO of Poly. We'll be hearing from T-Mobile, which is a little bit of a different spin on collaboration and apps. Then we're going to have Zoho, which is another very interesting company for that mid-market space. And then what's that last one there, Pat? I'm trying to read it. Cisco. My God, we have so many sessions. I'm losing my mind. Cisco talking about the WebEx platform. So another really big action-packed day.
Yeah, let's go into day 3, all about 5G Edge and IoT. And like we said before, kicked off by OT and upcoming IT leader Honeywell. We have Jim Anderson from Lattice, big player in semiconductors and the edge. T-Mobile, T-Mobile and 5G. Come on, folks. Leaders in 5G in North America. Marvell coming in, leaders in edge. silicon. A lot of those 5G base stations that you see out there have their silicon in it. We have Siemens, another IT, OT play here. Lenovo talking about the edge. Cristiano Amon, CEO-elect from Qualcomm. I mean, come on. 5G and the edge and IoT, that's pretty much Qualcomm. Bill Voss, VP of Engineering from AWS, talking edge. Super excited to have AWS for the first time this year. And finally, Cisco talking about cloud security on the edge. Awesome.
Sassy, baby. We're going to talk sassy. All right, day 4, Pat. I don't know. I'm glad this one fell to me and our back and forth. Look, we like chips and SaaS, so you know that about us if you've listened to this show for a while. But I don't know that we could have. I mean, you've heard about some serious semiconductor players throughout the week that aren't even on our semiconductor day.
No.
Our semiconductor day is off the charts. We're going to be talking to, from the device and the chip making side, Lisa Su kicking us off. We got the CEO of HP giving us some vision from what the PC makers are thinking about when it comes to chips. And we're going to have Simon Seeger, CEO of ARM, Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA. We've got Dario Gil, who basically leads a lot of the hard tech for IBM. We got Tom Caulfield, which you'll see regularly on the networks, talking about the chip and supply shortage business of Global Foundries. Jim Elliott, who leads basically the semiconductor business for Samsung here in the Americas. We have Matt Murphy, the president and CEO of Marvell. This is just a ridiculous lineup. We have the Kayvon, who leads the manufacturing for Intel. And then we have Robin
Tyler.
Yeah, sorry. It's a little blurry on my end, but from Microsoft Surface. So we've got the device side, and then AWS, by the way, is sneaking in here. We've got the device side, Pat. We've got the chip side. We've got the foundry, the fabs. We've got, this day is going to be ridiculous. This is going to be
it is going to be ridiculous. Yeah, and then you like you said, you tie in the other semiconductor CEOs that we have throughout. We pretty much it's a who's who of semiconductors, and like you said, semiconductors and SaaS. Okay, let's go to day 5. Again, AI, machine learning, and big data kicked off, like we said earlier, CEO of Splunk. We have the president of Cloudera, the CEO of Automation Anywhere, the CEO of Grok, up and coming AI and machine learning play. And then we have head of software at HPE and CTO. And if you haven't been watching HPE, basically all their announcements have been around software, which is excellent. We have the office of the CTO, Client Solutions Office, out of Dell Technologies. We have Red Hat. We have C3 AI, and we have UiPath from an automation point of view. Another heavy hitting day to round it out, Daniel. I am super excited.
Yeah, Pat, I got to tell you, 5 days, an outstanding lineup. Now, whatever tech interests you, we're going to have some of the leading minds and the biggest, most prolific companies in this space. This has been a lot of work. And by the way, the work's not done. Pat and I are recording these conversations and these interviews still day in and day out. Our team is building the event platform. We are going to really hope to inspire our audience to bring 5 days of just tech bliss for everybody that's out there and getting access. And these aren't 2-minute media clips or really short little segments with 1 or 2. We're getting 15, 20, 25 minutes of interactive discussion with these people, Pat. And you could just take this week and say, I want to get my virtual MBA in all things tech. And you could listen to these people, and you will be the smartest person at Thanksgiving this fall.
I love it. I love it, man. Wow. What a show. I'm super excited. Register now at 65summit.com.
All right, everybody. And that's going to be a wrap. Our slightly different show, a little bit longer, but hopefully it was worth it to hear all about this event. We can't wait for you to come. Go to the65summit.com. We'll put it in the show notes. You can register there. We can't wait to have you attend. For this episode of the 6-5, we got to say goodbye. We'll see you next week. Next week will be jam-packed. I promise you we'll keep it interesting. Hit that subscribe button. Hit us up on Twitter. Pat and I love to respond. Pat responds faster, but we'll both respond eventually. Join us on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, all the lives. We love you. Our community, you matter. But for now, we got to go. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.